Genetic code and translation and transcription. Now I'm starting with the translation. I already told you many times the central dogma of molecular biology that will be a double stranded DNA will replicates itself to form new DNA that will be transcribed to the RNA. It may be mRNA or tRNA, rRNA, whatever it may be, and from there it will be transported to the cytosol, and finally the genetic information present in the DNA which will be transcribed into the genetic code. From there these genetic code, nitrogenous bases or genetic code, will be synthesized or translated into the amino acid and finally produces your protein. So the gene information will be present in the DNA which is expressed in the form of your protein. This complete mechanism is known as central dogma of molecular biology. The way of expression is called as gene expression. So starting with the definition of translation, the translation is a process in which the sequence of nucleotide triplets in the messenger RNA give rise to a specific sequence of amino acids during the synthesis of a polypeptide chain or a protein. So if you think it's a long, simply speaking, the nucleotide bases present in the mRNA are converted, translated into the amino acid into a polypeptide chain is called as translation, and this translation in the case of eukaryotes it will take place in the cytosol, and the ribosomes are the very takes an adaptive role in the synthesis of translation. Translation process occurs in cytosol on ribosomes guided by the mRNA, no doubt, because the mRNA is the one which will carries the messenger from the DNA. And through the genetic code, the information contained in the DNA is expressed to produce a specific protein that I already told you. And this translation is a very complex process. It requires various involvement of various requirements or various elements for the protein synthesis, which includes ribosomes, messenger RNA, tRNA, and this process requires ATP, GTP, and various enzyme. Along with that, various factors which will be called as initiating factor, elongating factor, and terminating factors. So all these elements are required. The same thing is mentioned here. The central dogma: DNA will synthesize mRNA and it will be translated to a protein. Now coming to the individual explanation of the requirements. So the first one is the mRNA, known as messenger RNA. The mRNA is a template for the protein synthesis. For example, this is your mRNA. This will have the undergoes for the various modification after your transcription that we are discussing under the post transcriptional modification, and it will have an initiating codon. Generally it will be your methionine, right? Then it will have the nucleotide sequence known as your genetic code, and that always the mRNA will be translated in the 5' to 3' direction. This mRNA, which consisting of your nucleotide bases, will be results in the amino acid completely. So each your, for example, this is mRNA consisting of various nitrogenous bases. So each 3 nitrogenous bases will encode for a amino acid 1, and next successive will be results for the second amino acid. Likewise, these nitrogenous bases, consequence 3 nitrogenous bases will result in the amino acid binds by the peptide linkages. So that 5' to 3' end of mRNA will results, the 5' will be resulting in the amino terminus and 3' will results in the carboxy terminus. And generally we all knew the initiating codon of methionine will be your AEG, that will be present nearer to the 5 prime end. And new terms, one is monocistronic mRNA or monocistronic. What is that monocistronic? The eukaryotic mRNA is referred to as monocistronic because it encodes a sequence of a single polypeptide chain. Generally, the mRNA in the eukaryotic will result a single polypeptide chain. Hence, we are calling it as monocistronic. Whereas in the case of your prokaryotes, the mRNA may translated into the two or different polypeptides. Hence, it is known as polycistronic type of mRNAs. Next one, the main element in the translation is known as tRNA. So already the structure is explained to you, but for your convenience and for our requirement, we are speaking about the two codons. Especially the tRNA is a single stranded. Please do remember this tRNA is a single stranded which will be converted into the various loops and arms, and finally it will give a three-dimensional structure known as clover leaf structure, right? And this clover leaf structure of tRNA in the process of translation, mainly it having two importance. One, your 3 prime end, which we are calling it as codon end, that will be attached with the amino acids, and in the amino acid the carboxyl group of amino acid will be esterified with the hydroxyl group of the tRNA. Please do remember, in the process of translation the amino acid has to be activated. That amino acid will binds with the here the carboxyl group of amino acid and hydroxyl group of the tRNA will be binds with the ester linkage. And so the function of your codon RNA is to attach with the amino acids. And next important function will be about the anticodon or codon of tRNA. This anticodon tRNA will binds with the mRNA and it will have exact anticodons present in the mRNA. So it will helpful in the recognizing your codons present in the mRNA. So these are the very important points about tRNA. The tRNA is the adapter molecule in the protein biosynthesis, no doubt. The amino acid arm can carry a specific amino acid that will be esterified by its carboxyl group to the hydroxyl group of the amino acid residue at the 3 prime end of the tRNA. The anticodon arm contains the anticodon. The anticodon on the tRNA recognize a complementary sequence of 3 bases on the mRNA called codons. So the mRNA will have the codons. So this tRNA will have the anticodon arms. This anticodon will helps in the recognize of specific codons present in the mRNA. The same thing is mentioned here. The 3 prime end will bind with the amino acids, whereas anticodon loop will attaches with the mRNA and it will helps in the recognizing your sequence of mRNA. Next one is the ribosomes. These ribosomes are the macromolecules which consisting of rRNA and protein molecules. The proportion of your rRNA and protein, especially in the case of eukaryotes, it may consisting of 35% of protein and 65% of your rRNA. Here I mentioned a broad spectrum that is 30 to 40% because I had discussed with the eukaryotes and prokaryotes. And these ribosomes are the important complexes where your protein synthesis will be takes place. So both the mRNA and tRNA will get attached with your ribosomes and there you will have the protein synthesis. And coming to the structure of your ribosomes, these ribosomes will be differ in the prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and each ribosome will have the different subunits. One is known as larger subunit and next one is called as smaller subunits. And coming to the other characters of your subunits within the larger subunit, generally at the smaller subunit the mRNA and tRNA will be get in contact, and in the larger subunit you will have the three different locations known as A site, P site and E site. The A site is also known as amino cell site, where your activated amino acid will be attached along with the tRNA. And next one is the P site known as peptide site, where a peptide bond between the amino acid will be generated, and in the both the location the tRNA attached will be called as charged tRNA. The charged T, please do remember this word, you have to be familiar. The charged tRNA stands the any amino acid which will be attached with the just a second, इसको पास कैसे करना है, पास. So the second site is known as P site, where the peptide bond will be generated between the amino acid synthesizing during your translation. And what I am saying is the charged tRNA stands for the tRNA which is attached with the amino acid is known as charged tRNA, and E site is also called as exit site. Here the tRNA which have done its function will be slowly transferred to this place, and generally this will be attached with the tRNA which is not binding with the amino acid and known as uncharged tRNA. So this is about the locations and bind specificity of your ribosomes. The ribosomes are the macromolecule which consisting of your large subunit and small subunits. Both these large and small subunits will take part in the translation, where the tRNA and mRNA will get in contact, and you having three different sites: A site, P site and E site. A site is specific for the amino cell tRNA, P site is for the peptidyl and E site for the exit. And it is consisting of the same thing is mentioned here. The ribosomes has the three sites: A site for the aminoacylated tRNA, P for the peptidyl tRNA and E site for the uncharged tRNA. And these sites are present at the interface between the small and large subunit of the ribosomes. And coming to the next thing, I always get confused. 50 in the case of prokaryotes, they are known as 70S ribosomes. The prokaryote consisting of ribosomes of 70S, and these S stands for Svedberg unit. What is that Svedberg unit? Is nothing but is a measurement of sediment, rate of sedimentation. If you are, for example, if you add this in the centrifuge, the sediment will take some time to get settled. So that sedimentation time will be measured in the units called as Svedberg units. So that S will be known as 70. And here this large ribosome or 70S ribosome is a combination of two ribosomes. One is 50S ribosome and 30S ribosome. And you can see that I can calculate that, sir, 50S plus 30S will become 80S, sir, but why we are calling it as 70S? Right, but these 50S and 30S means this, if it is this 50S ribosome independently or separately having the sediment rate of 50 and same with the 30S, but when they joined their sedimentation rate will be decreases to 70. That's why the 70S ribosome will consisting of 50S ribosomes and 30S ribosomes. And again the 50S ribosome will have the various proteins, approximately 34 is mentioned here, but 36 proteins are present, and it have the 5S rRNA and 23S rRNA are the constants of your 50S ribosomes, whereas 30S rRNA ribosome will consisting of 16S rRNA and 21 proteins. The molecular weight of this 70S ribosome will be 250,000 Daltons. It's not 2 lakhs, or you can call it as 2.5 million Daltons. Eukaryotic ribosomes, same. It is made up of 60S ribosomes and 40S ribosomes. Sedimentation rate 80S. These 60S ribosomes is consisting of 5S rRNA, 20S rRNA, 5.S rRNA, and approximately 49 proteins are present in the 60S ribosomes. Where in the case of your 40S ribosomes, it is considered of your 18S rRNA and 33 proteins are incorporated. And coming to the translation process, the translation is mainly consisting of 5 stages. Among them, one is the activation of amino acids, second one is the initiation, next one is elongation, next one is termination, and finally folding and post translation process. So we'll see one by one, and for your requirement I mentioned this. The activation of amino acids will requires the 20 different amino acids. So for each 20 amino acids we are having the different enzyme known as, which is required for the activation, that is known as amino acid tRNA synthetase, or simply can be abbreviated as AAS, amino acid synthetase. This amino acid synthetase require ATP molecule. And next one is the 32 different tRNAs are required. These 32 tRNAs will responsible to identify 61 different genetic codes. And ATP, obviously I told you, for the activation we require the ATP, and this will be takes place in the presence of your magnesium ion. And second one is the initiation. This initiation is a big process which will be further divided into the 5 stages. So that requires mRNA, N-formyl methionyl tRNAs, or simply you are initiating tRNA. Then initiating codon which should be present on the mRNA, that is AUG, 30S ribosomes, because and 50S ribosomes. See, in case of your eukaryotes, you need to replace with this 40S and 60S ribosomes. And here a small contrast is there. In the case of translation, we are only discussing about the eukaryotic translation. We are not prescribing the prokaryotic translation. Whatever the minute changes are there, I will explain you in the last slides. The next one is the initiation factors is required. In case of your eukaryotes, we required the EIF, that is known as eukaryotic initiating factors. There are approximately 10 factors are present that we will discuss. For in case of prokaryotes, only 3 factors are required. Then the ATP is required, the energy is required. The energy will be comes from the GTP. Then again this will be depends on coenzyme magnesium. The elongation process required all these elements, because elongation we'll see in the next class. So by that time I will explain you. And termination is required the termination codon or releasing factors. The elongation will require the elongation factors. So the protein biosynthesis, are known as translation, is consisting of 5 major stages, which includes activation of amino acids, initiation, elongation, and termination and ribosome recycling, and finally folding and post translation modification. So first one is the activation of amino acids. The activation of amino acids, where a amino acid will binds with the tRNA, and this process will results in the activated tRNA is known as amino acid tRNA. Simply speaking, this is the amino acid. This will binds with the tRNA with the help of ATP in presence of your magnesium, and enzyme is required known as amino acyl tRNA synthetase, and this will result in the amino acid binding to the tRNA, and AMP will be produces and the pyrophosphate will be liberated. Here I have given the description. I think it is took from the Pankaja Nayak. So the amino acids are activated by attaching the amino acid to the tRNA in the first stage of protein biosynthesis. So protein has to be synthesized. For that, the amino acids are the raw materials, and these amino acids will be attached with the transfer RNA or tRNA, and this transfer RNA will transfer them into the ribosomes and contact with your mRNA, and that will be translated. This reaction takes place in the cytosol. Please do remember, in the case of your protein synthesis, most of the reactions will take place on the ribosomes, but the activation will take place in the not on ribosome, but will take place in the cytosol individually. Each of 20 amino acids is covalently attached to their corresponding tRNA at the expense of ATP using magnesium dependent amino acid tRNA synthetase. Please do remember, each enzyme will be specific for one amino acid. So we are having 20 different amino acids for the translation or activation of amino acids, whereas one or more tRNA corresponding tRNAs will be regulated or catalyzed by a single enzyme, because we are having 20 enzymes but we are having 31 tRNAs. So the carboxyl group of an amino acid, okay, that I already explained you. So in the amino acid we will have the two areas, one will be amino group and second one will be the carboxyl groups. So the carboxyl group of this amino acid will be attached with the hydroxyl group of the tRNA located at the 3' end, and you will have the bonding that by ester linkages. And the same thing is mentioned here. The carboxyl group of an amino acid is esterified to the hydroxyl group of the tRNA at the 3' end. Here I mentioned that, see, this is the 3' end, and here it is having the hydroxyl group. So this will be binds with your amino acid. When an amino acid is attached to the tRNA to form amino cell tRNA, it will be recognized by your anticodon, and it will be specified by your codon present on the mRNA. So that will be known as mRNA codon. And when a tRNA carrying an amino acid, it is referred to as charged tRNA. I already told you, any tRNA which will binds with the amino acid is called as charged tRNA, and that is called as activated amino acid or activated tRNA. And here about the amino acid tRNA synthetase. For the binding of tRNA and amino acid, we require an enzyme known as amino acid tRNA synthetase. One amino acid tRNA synthesize only one amino acid, one or more tRNAs, and we are having the two classes. One is class 1 or monomeric. Example for the amino acids is arginine, cysteine, glutamate, glycine, glutamate, isoleucine, leucine, methionine, tryptophan, tyrosine, and valine. Whereas class 2, it is a dimeric and it will encode it for the remaining amino acids. And initiation process, after your activation, we has to get initiation process, and this initiation process will take spot on the ribosomes, and this initiation for our convenience will be categorized into the 4 different classes or stages. That is in case of eukaryotes I am speaking. The translation is purely in case of eukaryotes only. The first one is the dissociation of your ribosomes. The 80S ribosome will be get detached and forms 40S ribosomes and 60S ribosomes. And second one is the binding of ternary complex with the 40S ribosome to form the 43S pre-initiation complex. That is the second step. And third step, binding of mRNA to the 43 initiation complex to form 48S initiation complex. And next one is the combination or binding of 48 complex with the 60S ribosomal subunit to form the 80S initiation complex. So it is little bit lengthy. I will try to make it in simple form. For these conversions and other steps, we required some factors known as in eukaryotic initiating factors, which is given the name as factor 2. This will facilitate binding of met tRNA to the 40S ribosome subunits. And 2b and E3 F3 will be responsible for these are the first two factors to bind 40S subunits and facilitate subsequent steps. Rather, they will helpful in the prevention of reattachment of 60S ribosome with the 40S ribosomes. These are the first two factors which will get in contact with the 40S subunit. And initiating factor 4a, that will have the RNA helicase activity. It removes the secondary structure in the mRNA to permit binding to the 40S subunit, and it forms the complex. Then factor 4b, it binds to the mRNA and helps in the scanning of mRNA to locate the first AUG, because we have to start the protein synthesis that will take place at the meta only. Next one is initiating factor 4e, that will bind to the 5' cap of mRNA in part of the EIF4 complex. And 4G, it will bind to the 4E poly A binding protein, and all this will be I will explain later. And finally, initiating factor 5 and initiating factor 6 are present. So for today, I will make it into very simple things. Just only the overall mechanism of your initiation process I will explain you. In the next class, I will try to make it as easy way to understand complete translation. Okay. So for the initiation process, which will take place on the cytosol, no doubt, the initiation phase consisting of four reactions. The first one is the dissociation of 80S ribosome. Please do remember the first reaction where the ribosome 80S is the formed due to the combination of 60S and 40S. So initial phase will be removal or dissociation of 60S and 40S. That will be results in the dislocation of 60S and 40S. So in the first reaction, initiating factor 1a and F3 will get in contact with the 40S ribosomes. This contact will helps in the further dissociation. Once it is get dissociated, so the chance is there that may get contact. So for that removal of contact, this initiating factor 1a and 1F A and F3 will be useful. So in the next one is the formation of 43 pre-initiation complex. So here the 40S complex, which is already bind with the initiation factor 1a and F3, that will be binds with the ternary complex. Sir, what is this ternary complex? The ternary complex is nothing but here it encodes the met tRNA, stands for a tRNA which is consisting of your initiating codon METR AUG. It will be consisting of AUG codons, and this will be binds with the initiating factor F2 or EIF2 plus GTP. For this binding we require the GTP is required. So once these three elements, which are known as ternary complex, binds with your 40S ribosomes, that will result in the formation of 43S pre-initiation complex. Fine. Now in the second reaction, these 43 initiation complex will get into contact with the mRNA to form 48S initiation complex. So here the mRNA, we already knew that the initially translated mRNA will goes for the post translation modification by adding the poly A tail and 5' capping. This 5' cap will have a protein called as CBP that will be generally binds with the 5'. So this CBP will helps in the attaching with the 43S pre-initiation complex, and that attachment of your mRNA with 43S pre-initiation complex, now it is called as 48S initiation complex. And please do remember, here the initiating factor F2 and EIF3 will help in the recognition of your initiating codon present on the mRNA. And once they will be attaches, so the remaining your GDP, initiating factor 2, 1A and F3 all will be released as only initiating factor 5 will be present, and that will causes attachment of your 60S ribosome with the help of your 40S initiation complex together, that will forms the ATS and ATS initiation complex. Now the activated or the protein will be, the amino acid is present now at the P site. After that it will goes for the elongation process that we'll see in the next class. Just do remember, the initiation process consisting of 4 steps. One is the dissociation, next one is the formation of 43S pre-initiation complex, next one is 48S initiation complex, and next one is the ATS initiation complex. So as if now you have to be, your duty will be, just please be familiar with these words and these reactions. Once you are done with this initiation step, the further steps are very easy. The simple thing is, each time every new amino acid will becomes, it will be attached to the A site, so peptide bond will be forming based on your codons that will be transferred, and once the tRNA done their duty, it will be translated to the E site. From there it will be removed. The same way the ribosomes, once that done their duty, they also dissociated and will be ready for the next protein synthesis. Thank you. And if you have any queries, we are uploading this complete chart class in the YouTube. So those who got